Welcome to New Life Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. New Life Live is dedicated to transforming lives one at a time, thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
Well, hello, everybody. Actually, it's not Steve, it's Becky Brown, and I'm so glad you joined us today. We're going to be taking your calls for a couple of hours. 1-800-229-3000 is the number to call. And by we, I mean Dr. Jill Hubbard and Jim Burns. Hi, you guys.
Hi, Becky.
Becky, great to be with you again, and I love getting to hang out with Jill.
Yes, we have so much
fun. We started talking, and all of a sudden you
you
came on, so I guess we're supposed to be on the air then.
Yes, you have to focus now, but I was thinking, we get so many calls from families with some struggles, with adult children who are not talking to parents anymore, and I thought, what a great day, both you and Jill are experts in this field. I mean, Jill, you are the author of Forgiving Your Fathers and Mothers, and Jim, your book, the subtitle to Doing Your Life with Your Adult Kids is Keeping Your Mouth Shut and the Welcome Mat Out. I mean, what a great way for us to practice that. But you guys, what are some of the challenges that you've heard, and what are some solutions that we can offer to people who are listening today that maybe they have a split in their family?
Well, last night, I was speaking to a group of people on doing life with your adult children. And what I found was these were incredible people who were in shock that their adult children had strayed from faith, had violated their values as they grew up. And I would say almost every one of them had some kind of a story. Now, not all horrendous stories, but there were people who were estranged from their kids. And it took them by surprise. And I honestly think that what we have to do is realize that we've never been the parent of an adult child, so we don't know what we're doing. And that's a phase that we didn't even think about very much. And then also our adult children don't know how to be adults. My kids, Jill, I don't know if this was for you, but my kids would kind of go, well, I'm an adult. I'm 18.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of want to go, but we're paying for your cell phone and we're paying for your school. And
I nixed that one right away. I'm like, age is irrelevant.
Right.
It's based on a sense of maturity and trustworthiness.
No, exactly. And kids are, I'm finding that, and maybe you guys are too, that I'm finding that adult children, especially in those younger ages, they're meandering toward responsibility, and they're even meandering toward marriage. Now, once they get married, they tend to get real serious about marriage. They tend to get real serious about their own parenting. But it's this meandering that drives some of us crazy.
Well, and don't you think, too, you all, that the conflict resolution is not there? Like, it's really difficult to have hard conversations and allow each other to bring your opinion to the table and still remain connected as family and friends. Have you seen any of that in your offices recently?
Oh, most definitely. I think right now, just in these times, more so than ever, we're seeing that the solution to conflict is cutting off.
Right.
And just, splitting and making things all good or all bad.
Right.
And so the idea of letting, I mean, and it's hard. It's hard. My adulting son is sharing views with me from college, and I am biting my tongue.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, remember that he's in process, right? He hasn't landed yet. And so you really do, like you say, keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
It's a hard one.
We all probably have some scars on our tongues.
Yes,
if we're
we
doing
do.
it right.
Yes. I agree with that. Well, listen, if you guys need any help, you listeners need any help with this, we have a tip sheet, 10 tips for healing broken families, and you can call us and we'll get that to you. But, we hope that if you are struggling with this, that you'll give us a call today, 1-800-229-3000. But, even more than that, here's your opportunity to connect with some wisdom. And if you're struggling with anything today, whether it's anxiety, depression, grief, maybe it's a relationship issue, give us a call, 1-800-229-3000. We'll be here for a couple of hours, and we would love to help you get on your journey to that new life that is waiting for you. So give us a call, 1-800-229-3000.
I lost my mother, and then her brother, and then my sister, and then my husband, and then I lost my best friend.
Are you overwhelmed by the intense feelings of grief, shock, denial, anger, guilt, sadness, depression? You're not alone.
When we lose people and there is grief, and then with each subsequent grief or loss that happens, it's a snowball effect.
The New Life Transforming Grief online workshop is Saturday, May 7th. You'll get tools to help you understand and process your grief and a community to travel through the valley with you. Let New Life help you process your loss, begin a journey of acceptance, and learn how to extend the comfort you've received to help others grieve and rebuild their lives too. To register or to find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE, 1-800-639-5433, or online at newlife.com. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. I always want to say hello to our viewers on YouTube because I am one of those, and I'm just so glad you're there. But I also want you to subscribe and share. You know, sharing is caring. You never know who's going to hear about the show, and it may change their life. And I'm also thankful for all the listeners that are tuning in on the radio program. But you know, you can listen on our app. It's free, download, and you can also find out all kinds of resources on the app as well. But we're glad you're here with us today. We're going to go straight to the calls, and we're going to talk to Karen, who is calling us from Jacksonville, Florida. And Terry, there you go. Let's see. Hi, Karen. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yes, I can.
Oh, great. Okay. We're glad you called. How can we help you today?
Hi. I just was looking for some support and ideas, possibly. I have a son that's in his last year of college, and he's diagnosed with some anxiety, OCD disorders, and he has always done really well. He has been on medications for a few years. The topic has come up in the past regarding marijuana and medicinal marijuana and those types of things. And, of course, I don't think that's the route, and I have my own fears about addictions and things like that. And so it's bounced around. It's been an issue a time or two. But recently, as in really recent, I have just discovered that he did go ahead and obtain his medical marijuana card. And it came to our address versus his college address. So I just want to be calm and rational and hear him, but yet also get my concerns across. I just want to know how to approach it, not to alienate him, and just some thoughts and help or perspective on that.
That's a great question, Karen. Well, Jim, what would you like to offer Karen in this?
Yeah, Karen, I'm glad that you're asking this because that and what you said, you don't want to alienate him. That's key. And he's not a freshman in college. He's a senior in college. Right. And with most kids over those 4 years, there really is a transformation of them being dependent, and slowly the dependency is less. Right. Even though you're still paying for everything, you really see them start to bud into adults that are making more of their own decisions and aren't consulting you as much. You said he's had an ongoing obsessive compulsive disorder as well as an anxiety disorder, and he's tried medication in the past. So has he not felt adequate relief from that?
Yes, that's pretty much
okay.
it. He's tried medications, and then he came off, but he's been on a pretty decent regimen of three different medications.
Okay.
And we've, prayed and battled through that, but I guess he never fully, it still bothers him, and certain things will get him really kind of off key, but he functions well. He works. He's an honor student. I mean,
here's the thing with marijuana. For some people, it works really well and it works really fast. And so when you're anxious and you feel desperate, it works. The problem is the more you use it, because you will build a tolerance, I have seen people where it flips and it actually creates the very anxiety that you're trying to avoid. And this is after chronic use of it. I also have great concerns with people using it prior to their brain fully developing, so prior to the age of 26. And so, but you're asking, okay, he's made the decision. So it's come to your house, so you have full right to discuss with him. And I would try to listen to him first and really empathize with his concerns about his anxiety and how he has tried so many different ways to manage it, but also to caution him on the concerns, right? That he's not 26 yet. And that there are, those side effects that come along with this, and as well as sometimes a decrease in a person's level of functioning.
Yeah, that's good, Jill.
Right.
Jim, what would you like to say?
Well, absolutely, Jill, what you said was so important, especially when you're talking about your brain not fully growing up. When I was in grad school, I learned that your brain quit growing at age 16. That's how old I am. and
I'm glad they've updated
right,
that.
Isn't that great?
Me too.
But all of a sudden, we started learning that the brain, it's much more like at age 26, and it's the frontal cortex part of the brain, which is so key. So that's an issue. He's self-medicating.
Yes.
And by self-medicating...
and we talked about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I know all the statistics. His
Right.
father's an alcoholic, and he's been sober for 3 years now.
Right.
So I have bigger fears as far as
that makes sense.
Yeah.
go.
I think
So
you have
this
every
is
right
an
to share your...
open conversation.
Yeah, I think you have every right to share your
just,
fears. What I like to say is...
I'm just scared for him.
Yeah, I mean, tell him what you believe. Tell him how you feel. Again, because he is a young adult, he's making decisions on his own, and you can't be just that one topic parent. But help him understand those other issues. I mean, any kind of medication, and I have quotes. You can't see me, but on YouTube they could see me. There's some quotes, but any kind of medication, there are side effects and there are other issues. So, for example, marijuana is very interesting because it also can cause, but might not. It might work for Jill perfectly, and for me, it might not work with what we call amotivational syndrome. So your brain becomes I'm oversimplifying this, but your brain kind of becomes just lazy and lethargic, and it might affect him one way. The other thing that I get worried about with these young people is that when they try marijuana and it works for them, I mean, it actually does. It probably is helping him with his OCD and his anxiety.
It is.
But the issue becomes if he then goes, I'm not going to do medical marijuana. I'm going to go outside of it. Now that marijuana sometimes is laced with something else. It's 5 to 20% stronger than the marijuana that Bill Clinton did not inhale. He said, in whatever the 80s or whatever. So the point being, it's very complicated. And so he needs to understand all of those issues, because if he started on this road and then he started understanding some of the stuff, going, wait, this isn't working for me. These side effects are affecting me in other ways. He seems smart enough to begin to understand, well, I know what these side effects are. Maybe this isn't as good. There just may be better, quote unquote, medication for his anxiety and OCD.
Yeah.
But again, your job is to give him that information, let him know what you believe, let him know how you feel, and then, pray like crazy.
Then say, I hope that we can have ongoing dialogue about this.
Yeah. Well, and this is the issue. If Karen shuns him in anger or hurt or frustration, well, he's not going to come to her then when he has issues or when he has a problem. So you can say, look, I don't agree with this decision of yours, but you need to know I love you and I'm here for you. And I think it's very possible for parents to have that kind of a conversation.
Right. Well, and I think there's sorry, Becky. I think there's a threshold of, shock that parents go through when they realize their kids aren't choosing their values. Right. And so you have to go through grieving that. And then after that point, it's like, okay, you're doing this. I have to accept the reality, even though I don't agree with it. And so let's dialogue.
Yeah, and I love that you said grief, because it really, having an adult child means that we grieve. Yeah.
And you're in that grief, Karen. Yeah. So here's the other part of it. Here's the other part of it, though, Karen. Here's the other part. I just want to wrap it up.
Poor Karen, we're not letting her talk. We've got so much to say, Karen.
Okay.
But this is what I want to encourage you. If you haven't already talked with a counselor, about this. This could be a good way to process that grief, but also you're launching him at this point. Some of his anxiety is due to being a senior in college and then what's coming in front of him. It also is part of the life experience. Many times people think that the goal is to not feel anything. I don't want to feel anxiety. I don't want to feel grief. I don't want to feel anything. And that's what we're looking, people are seeking a resolve to the feeling. And what we need to do instead is to deal with the feeling. And so I think for both of you, that could be a great, just a new path forward.
Well, and that speaks to what you were saying, Jim, about amotivational syndrome, because to have zero anxiety, we would hardly get out of bed in the morning, right? You need to have a little anxiety to function.
Yeah, and what Becky's saying is if you're on any kind of medication, sometimes it really is good and wise to get counseling around that, because the answer isn't, as she said, just take away all your pain or all your anxiety. That would be, life would be boring. But you truly do want to get the insight and wisdom from, somebody who really does know that issue.
Right. Well, thanks for calling, Karen. I'm going to send you Jim's book, Doing Life with Your Adult Kids. I think that will be helpful. And I know you're not alone in this. It is just, that's why we brought up the subject today, right? It's a common thing of trying to figure out how to do that next chapter with your kids. We're going to talk to Patty, who's calling us from Washington, D.C., and listens on WAVA, one of our favorite stations. Hi, Patty. How can we help you today?
Hi, I greatly appreciate you having this topic as the Lord would have it. It is right on cue for what I need, so thank you for taking my call today.
Sure. And how can we help you?
I'm going through a divorce that I don't want, a 30-year marriage, 3 kids, early to mid-20s, some substantial financial assets to divide, and a lot of things that we need to figure out. But I guess I'm being portrayed as being selfish and greedy by pushing back, to say what you offered is not at all fair or securely worded. And I worry so much about the kids not liking me, not loving me, and being bought, basically, to take the other side of someone who's a narcissist and just would not go to counseling more than, just regular weekly, no weekends intensives that you guys offered, no church-related marital workshops.
So he didn't want to work on the marriage.
No, he even admitted that at the end. He had a final decision, would not go back and reconsider. Left me
all right,
Patty.
So,
tight
Patty,
corner.
I think this actually is pretty common when marriages are splitting up, right? Suddenly you're competing for the kids' attention, and knowingly or unknowingly wanting them to be on your side, or the other person wants the same thing. Some of that over time gets sorted out, because as people separate, then kids have to have their own separate relationship with each parent. And so some of the buffering that happens, especially with a narcissistic parent, usually the other parent buffers the kids. Dad didn't really mean that. He really loves you, and smooths it over, because some of the narcissist's reactions or non-reactions feel intolerable. So what happens is the kids need to see the reality of their relationship, and they do over time. Most kids are smart enough to figure out who is the parent they can count on, or what they can count on in each parent. And so, Patty, I don't want you to be held hostage by that and sell yourself short, because in divorce, nobody thinks it's fair. Nobody wins. Nobody gets all of what they want. But a narcissist will guilt you to death and make you feel horrible, to the point where then you're looking at yourself not wanting to be a bad person, and they steal you blind. So you need a good attorney in your corner, and you need to stick up for yourself, and it's not greedy to do that.
Well, and Jill, don't you think she also needs a group of friends who are speaking life into her?
Absolutely. Yeah. You need some girlfriends around you.
I have been so blessed in that category, and the good attorney, and so I am grateful to the Lord for all of His provisions throughout this whole ordeal.
Great. Well, Patty, hold on. We're going to take a break, and then we'll come back after the break. But if you're in a situation like what we've already heard, you can find help. You can call us at 1-800-229-3000 and get started on a new path. You know, whether it is something in a relationship with your kids or your family, or maybe it's just a personal struggle with anxiety or frustration, there is a way out. It sometimes it feels like you're just overwhelmed with this, and we just want you to be encouraged that there is help available. Give us a call, and Jill or Jim will give you the wisest words that you've ever heard in your life and change your life.
It had become very apparent that some of the things I was involved with were taking over my life.
In today's world, men are barraged with inappropriate content and images all day, every day. Some say that certain behaviors are just no big deal. It's just part of being a guy. But it's simply not true. It's a battleground for every man, and the opportunities to fail are everywhere. New Life's Every Man's Battle Workshop can help.
After 7 years, just one weekend, a completely changed man.
For over 20 years, New Life Ministries has been helping men regain their integrity and purity through their one-of-a-kind Every Man's Battle Workshop.
He said, I think this is something that every man should go to. Married, dating, it was definitely life-changing.
Now the workshop is coming to Columbus, Ohio, April 8th to the 10th. Don't wait for him to call. To find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to newlife.com. 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for 30 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addictions, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
You guys are awesome. You're a blessing to America.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first step toward genuine spiritual and emotional healing, please call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door to a better tomorrow right now. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433.
We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We were talking with Patty before the break, who's in the middle of a divorce and just struggling with that whole, there's just so many challenges with it. And Jill shared, but I'd love to hear what you have to say, Jim, and we'll just continue in the call.
Well, I think, Patty, you're doing the right thing. And, there's a phrase, I have a friend named John Ortberg who says this all the time, love God and do the right thing. And it sounds like that's what you want to do. Love God, do the right thing. And what Jill said was really important to understand, that over time, things get worked out, especially if there is a narcissist on one side. They're going to figure that out. Your kids are young adults. Maybe they are being motivated or, by that bribe, if you would. But they're not going to be motivated by that bribe forever. And they're going to understand that you were there for them long term and you've done the right thing. You have gone through, a lot of times we talk about the loss and the grief when a child leaves home. You've influenced, or you've been, day-to-day a parent for 2 decades or more, and then they move on. Well, you have 2 losses going that are huge. One is the divorce, and one is your adult children leaving home and not needing, they don't need you as much as they used to. And so, you do want to lean into some of the loss that you're going through, and not worry too much about their feelings. Do the right thing, take care in the right way. As Jill said, the idea of having the right attorney, it sounds like you have that, by making the good decisions. Those are the decisions. And I remember when my kids were 13, they thought we were terrible parents, and now they're looking at us. They're in their 30s. They go, "You guys were great parents." Really? You didn't think that at 13? Well, they're going to have some opinions about this. They're going through their own grief with this divorce.
And here's the thing: when you say that, then he tries to buy them.
Yeah.
Well, if all he has to offer them is money, of course they're going to take it.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Because, okay, that's what Dad does. He can throw money at us, but it doesn't replace the other things. It's not a substitute.
And you can't be the one-topic parent either, because if you're the one-topic parent only focusing on the negative, well, then you're not going to be any fun, and they're not going to come to you. And,
well, that's true.
And
too.
so you need to be able to have some of those firm foundational issues, yes, but at the same time, enjoy time with them so that when this all gets straightened out, which is going to be 3+ years from now, when this all gets straightened out, they're gonna have that right relationship with you as a mom.
Well, here's an elephant in the room that maybe we're like walking around. There are sometimes in these situations where the kids don't get over it because of their own character.
Right.
And what do you do when you have an adult son or daughter that isn't a person of good character? And that's the hard thing. If they begin to kind of buy into the narcissism and the money, and because I've heard those stories, I've talked to people who their kids have walked away, and that goes back to that grieving process. And how can we become more who we're supposed to be in Christ, even if the people we gave birth to are not an example of that? It's just it's a struggle. I don't know if that's what you guys have ever thought of, but I've heard that before. So
that, those are those really sad situations, Becky, where you're right, where a kid will identify with the more aggressive parent or the parent they're the least secure with. And can buy into that, kind of mom's no fun. And so I think, I think, Jim, what you said, working on your relationship with your kids, respecting their boundaries, giving them permission to tell you, Mom, I don't want to talk about that.
Right.
And focusing on them and their struggle as well and how they're doing in it.
And if we overcomplicate the money issue, it really is. Even in the book that I wrote on doing life with your adult children, I put a whole chapter on there on money because it is a major issue. And so we can't overcomplicate that and just become the money pit. I do think most of the time, Becky, and I totally understand that there are times when this doesn't work, but I think most of the time it does work out because they see through some of the shallowness of a relationship with their, and you know what? They want a relationship with both mom and dad. They're struggling with this too. A divorce is not just between a husband and a wife. A divorce is where the kids are too, and they have to, they have their own issues to figure out.
Well, even in their 20s, I think it's a time when they're supposed to be individuating, but instead the parents are, in a sense, individuating, right? And so it's kind of backwards, and I think it kind of can create a mini crisis for kids.
It does. And what happens when we don't do it well as parents is we enable dependency on us because we have that need.
Yes.
You talked about dependence. Well, they're moving from dependence to independence.
Right.
So we have this need to still be needed. And in some ways, our job is to give them the passport to adulthood and let them move on and take a deep breath because they're not exactly doing it the way we wanted.
That's it.
But I actually think, listening in between the lines with Patty, I think Patty is making some really good decisions. And good decisions don't mean easy decisions.
No.
Or easy. And sometimes the response she's not making the decision for the instant response. She's making long-term decisions for a healthier long-term relationship.
And we'll send her a copy of your book, Jim, and she can read all about that. But thanks for calling, Patty. We're now going to talk to Gail, who's calling us from Columbia, Maryland, also listens on WAVA. Gail, we're going to go to a break real quick, but if you want to throw your question out, we can be thinking about it in the break if it's short. If not, we'll get it after the break.
Sure. Yes, it is short. It is short, and thank you for calling. We are so blessed today. And short, it is, I'm trying to decide whether I should tell my daughter about an upcoming surgery that I'm about to have or just go ahead and face it alone.
Wow, that's a pretty big question. We'll talk about that, and we'll get some more details. We're still taking your calls. If you guys have a problem with anything, it is the day that you need to pick that phone up, Call 1-800-229-3000 and we can get you started on a path and a process to healing and a new life. And we really want the best for you. And it's hard sometimes just to ask for help. But once you make that call, it will make a difference. We'll be right back after the break and we'll talk with Gail.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have Christ-centered partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
I was really living a very anxiety-filled life. I turned on New Life, and the topic that day was about anxiety. And just by listening, I got relief.
You can help New Life stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of the Life Recovery Bible personal size, the 1-year Life Recovery Prayer Devotional, the New Life Journal, a New Life pen and highlighter, and a New Life zipper tote to hold it all. Plus, there are ongoing benefits like access to the Club New Life video library, the monthly Club New Life CD or download, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, and discounts on workshops. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We were just talking with Gail, and Gail, you have an upcoming surgery, and you're wondering if you should share with your daughter. I'd like to hear more about that. Jim, let's listen to what Gail has to say, kind of round out that story. Gail, what would keep you from sharing that with her?
My daughter is so independent. We have a good relationship, but it's not as close as most mother and daughter relationships are. We talk to each other. We don't talk. Sometimes we don't talk for a week or two at a time. We don't go to movies together. We don't go shopping together. She has her family, and I just kind of like live alone with my dog. And it's not like she just overlooks me, but like I said, our relationship isn't that close, and she guards her heart so much. I guess she's afraid of being hurt. Like, my son just passed in October, and
so sorry.
We're getting past that, and I know that something she does, I guess she feels like if she's not that close to me, if something would happen, then she won't be devastated and be so hurt. So with my surgery coming up in June, I don't know if I should share it with her. And she's in the medical field, and my girlfriend says, well, maybe you ought to tell her because she'll know this, she'll know that. I was like, I don't want to tell her, but suppose something happens and I haven't told her. I just don't know what to do.
Well, I'm glad you called today, Gail. I'm sure Jim and Jill can give you some wisdom. Who would like to start?
Gail, I'll start.
First, let me give you our ages. I'm in my late 60s, and my daughter's in her early 50s. She has 3 children, and I just had the 2, and now my son is gone.
Yeah. Boy, that's you've just had an incredibly tough loss, and now you're facing a surgery, and that makes it really tough. And again, I'm more curious to hear what Becky and Jill have to say, but I just want to simply say, I would, if I was your daughter, I would want to know. And, there's a word intimacy. And when we think of intimacy, the true form of intimacy is connection. And so the way to be connected with your daughter is tell her. Now, she may not be the person that's going to hold your hand during surgery. There may be someone else that you're going to have to have someone else come along, but don't do surgery alone. Have people within your church or within someplace else. But if I was your daughter, I would want to know. And you don't have to lay major things on her, but just simply say, honey, I just want to give you this information. It's something that I'm going through. And you're not responsible for her response. But again, if I was your daughter, I'd want to know. And I think that's put yourself in her shoes. And I think if she was going through a surgery, you would want to know. This is, for goodness sakes, you guys are family.
Well, and Gail, I hear you being disappointed that you aren't closer with your daughter. You kind of described what you see would be a closer relationship or a more ideal relationship with her. So especially with the loss of your son, that probably really adds to your grief and saddens you. So sometimes in our hurt, we can tell ourselves things like, well, she probably, wouldn't care anyway, or she'd just be too stressed out. And so you kind of are playing both sides of the relationship, where you're having a dialogue with yourself as if you know what her response would be or her feelings would be. And certainly in not telling her, you're living out that, well, we're really not that close. And if you want it to be different, then you don't live it out as if it's the thing that you don't want, right?
Right.
So it may not be as close as you want, but here, your daughter's in the medical field. If I were your daughter, I would feel really hurt and upset just based on that alone, that I'm in the medical field and you don't respect me enough to ask my advice or let me know, and then to just inform her. And so I think you need to, from your side, act as if there is a stronger connection there, and let her respond accordingly. But yeah, I agree. You need to let her know. And Jim, like you said, you probably need friends around you. You're not, asking to depend on her, but you're letting her know. Right. Sweetheart, I wanted to let you know.
I wonder too, Gail, if I would love to know all the history, and we don't have enough hours in the day to figure that out today, but just that apprehension that you have about connecting with your daughter, especially after the loss of your son. Yeah. Sometimes what happens is we get really fragile in these really difficult places, and it's a risk, and it feels too vulnerable to let somebody else know where we're at, even though they are a family. And it doesn't sound like you've had a disconnect with her, Gail. It's just not connected. Is that right?
Not as connected.
Yeah. Every once in a while you call. So it may be that you can make this an opportunity to connect with her, not to burden her. You're not burdening her, but just say, hey, honey, I just wanted to let you know I'm going to be having this surgery and, thus and such. It can be just the facts, literally.
You can tell her it's not a huge deal. I don't want you to worry, but I thought you would want to know. And if you have any input for me, I'd be happy to hear your opinion because I really value that.
Right. And then I would say, hey, is there a time that we can get together to have dinner? Or I'd love to come visit, and then begin to connect again. And I love what you've said a couple of times today, Jim, that you're not a one-topic parent. It's not all about the surgery, and it's not, but it's literally loving each other in the way and rebuilding this relationship. It's so important.
And I think, Becky, maybe you said this, or Gail even, that you're a little scared, that you're feeling fragile. Right? You're saying your daughter's fragile, but I think you're fragile, and maybe there's a part of you that can't bear her not caring. And so you're trying to protect yourself.
Right.
But in doing so, but in doing so, you're keeping any care.
Everything you've said is so true, and you're right. And I have thought about, let me just say, let's go to lunch and then sit down and just pour my feelings out, or even just tell her about the surgery. And I guess I'm just so apprehensive about it. I I just am afraid. I really am.
Well, and you know
I know
what's
she's
interesting.
not going to reject me. She's not going to reject me. I know that, and I will respect her opinion, and I am going to do it. I will tell her.
Good.
I will.
Good.
And Gail, you don't necessarily have to, take that opportunity to talk about your disappointment in the lack of connection. Like, I think you just start connecting more.
Yes.
And see what fruit comes from that. You just start being more.
You said, Jill. What you said, Jill, about how we get into both sides of the conversation. Now what you're going to do, Gail, is you're going to invite her into your life. And a cup of coffee, a meal is the way you do it. And you can even preface it by saying, I'm feeling apprehensive about doing this, but I really want to connect with you. I think it's a great opportunity to rebuild that relationship. And we're so glad you called. I'm going to send her Jim's book too. It's like Jim's book day. We're just going to, you get his book, everybody gets his book. I just, isn't it funny how in times of need, we really do need each other. And yet it is very hard to reach out because we don't want to bother anybody and we don't want to be a burden, but it's
we
such
feel vulnerable.
Yes.
Right. And and sometimes
we protect ourselves.
And sometimes that adult child wants that connection too, and doesn't know how to do it.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be a big drama thing. Sometimes you mentioned, Becky, coffee. It's amazing what a cup of coffee talking about almost non-essentials do to bring you closer together. Every conversation doesn't have to be in depth.
Right.
And then you take these little tiny baby steps, and next thing you know, you went, wow. She was telling me something about her life that she didn't used to do. And all of a sudden you go, well, we are closer.
I love it. Yep. And it builds over time. Well, we're going to talk to Jackie now, who's calling us from Eugene, Oregon, listens on Sirius XM. Hi, Jackie. How can we help you?
My husband died last June. And
so sorry.
We were married for 77 years.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, wow.
And
wow.
I have a really hard time leaving the house.
That's understandable. Wow, Jackie. So what have you tried?
Well, I'm involved with a widows group now.
Good.
And I go once a week, and that is helping. But I took care of my husband for a couple of years, and I don't have any close friends anymore because of that. So I'm pretty much of a loner.
Okay. And it sounds like you and your husband were probably pretty close for all of those years, right?
Well, 90% of them.
Yeah.
That's
That's
good.
honest and realistic. Yeah.
That's right. Well, Jackie, you can hear the music. We'll be back after the break, and we'll talk about this and give you some wisdom. We're so glad you called today. That's a huge loss, and it's a life-changing experience to lose a mate and, essentially have to start a new or different kind of chapter in your life. But I think that Jill and Jim will be able to help you, and we'll be right back after this.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn from New Life Live, and Chris Williams and I are doing the Emotional Freedom Workshop. I don't know of anybody that wouldn't benefit from emotional freedom. We're all bound or stuck or struggling in some area. What are we going to do there, Chris?
Just really help people get clarity around the places where they're stuck in their life. They sort of circle the same mountain of disappointment over and over and over again. You're going to be able to see that mountain clearly and get to a new place of what we call emotional freedom, which is simply I can feel in the world, build a relationship to it, and know what to do with my experiences.
The New Life Emotional Freedom Online Workshop is Saturday, April 30th. Steve Arterburn, Chris Williams, and Dr. Jackie Mack-Harris will present information on trauma, depression, codependency, and more. And small group leaders will help you process the information you learn. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or register online at newlife.com.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for 30 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
I'm an addict, and I'm trying to get God in my life again. You seem to be able to get to the crux of a problem quickly.
Our Christ-centered treatment programs can help you break free to embrace all that God has for you and your family.
I just want to thank you guys for bringing me to a relationship with Jesus.
There really is help for marital problems, depression, addictions, panic attacks, and feelings of hopelessness.
I came back with so many tools to help me prepare myself to fight this struggle and this battle that I have every day.
You can start living again today, living the life God intended for you. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
They did care, and they did follow up very lovingly, and it made all the difference in my life.
Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Someone who cares is waiting at the other end of the phone. God can open the door to a better tomorrow right now. Just call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-639-5433.
To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back. We're talking to Jackie, and she was recently widowed. Jackie, we're going to hear from Jim and Jill.
Well, and Jackie, I just want to clarify something. So what age category are you in?
I'm 78.
Okay, so maybe then you weren't married 77 years. But,
no, you're right.
Okay, but it's still a long time.
I was very young when we got married.
Okay, but still, you've been married a really long time. So it sounds like most of your life, more of your life, way more of your life, you have spent as a married person. And
yes.
If your world was organized around him, and if both of you were kind of loners, right, you had a partner, so that satisfied your need for connection, then you are like a fish out of water now. It's like, what do? You've barely had this. Like, you didn't even have this prior to marriage much of having to be alone in the world.
I had never lived alone until he died.
Oh, well, and that's kind of a weird experience to have that empty house.
Yes.
I'm really happy to hear that you've joined the widows group, and I think it's important that you consistently go to that. Because,
I do.
Good, because over time that connection gets reinforced and people get familiar with each other, and through groups, not always, but lots of times, then there's maybe a chance to do something outside of the group. Maybe with one of the other women, go have coffee or do something that starts to lend to friendship. And Jackie, do you have family?
Not local.
Okay, but do you?
They're within 3 hours.
Okay, but do you talk to them on the phone regularly? Did you guys have kids?
They're all grown. We have grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
Oh, wow. So I think it makes sense that you might be reaching out to them a little bit more. And I would just let them know that, that let me know if this isn't a good time, but let them know it's really hard for me. I've never lived alone before. So if you don't mind, I'm going to be touching base with you and just checking in. And so it's when you live alone, you have to turn your sights outside of the home to have your need for connection met. And that's a learning curve, right? Yeah. And it's something that you just have to push yourself to do. Kind of each day, it's like, okay, I need to connect with another human. And sometimes it's that you go to the market and you talk to the checker, right? I need to connect with other human beings.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, okay, the person at the Starbucks, the person at the cleaners, they become part of your community and your world because you see them repeatedly. And they're an important part in making community.
Absolutely. I would add, Jackie, that your feelings are normal. Totally. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've been married 47 years, and if I lost my wife, Kathy, right now, I would feel lost. And yet I have friends and I have family. I do know this, that the people who tend to thrive the best after a situation like yours is exactly what Jill said. Jump into that widow group, but more just than the widow group, go for a walk with somebody and do those things. They have the same needs you have, by the way. And then don't be afraid to say to this family that's not that far away from you, here's what a need of mine is. I would love to know if I could, have a FaceTime or a Zoom call or a phone call with you once a week. And would you mind if we did that? And you know what? A lot of times they're looking for your leadership. And so, you're not bugging anybody by saying that. And if they say, no, I'm too busy, well, then, move to the next family member. It sounds like you have some. But again, your feelings are normal. And if you were feeling like, oh, everything's okay, then I'd be saying, what's wrong with Jackie? I mean, my goodness, you've been hit with a huge loss, and you have a huge blessing because you're with this fine man that 90% of the time, I'd say that's pretty good. 90% of the time was great. I can see you have a sense of humor. Find people who are around you that that lift you up, and you look back next year and you went some steps forward, and yet there's still going to be a hole in your heart.
Right, and sometimes too, having things to look forward to. A friend of mine who became a widow suddenly started planning vacations and trips and inviting old friends to join her because she needed that next thing to look forward to because it helped to get her through. So even if you could go and do an overnight at one of your kids' house, it's only 3 hours away, right? That might be a fun thing. You don't want to overstay, but say, can I come for a weekend or for a night and just hang out with you guys and get a change of scenery, right?
Well, we're so glad you called, Jackie, and we'll be praying for those new connections. We're going to send you a copy of Take Your Life Back, and I think that'll give you a little bit of a boost of just some courage as you begin to do this new chapter of your life. And I agree with what you were saying, Jim, about it doesn't have to be just the Widows Club.
No.
It can be all kinds of things, Bible study and such.
And Becky,
I also want to...
Sorry. I just wanted to add two more things. One, when you live alone, if you're at all pet-oriented, a pet is somebody to care for, and that can make a huge difference in people's lives. And Becky, I also wanted to mention our grief workshop that's coming up in May. For the
May
first
7th,
time.
We're going to,
it's
May 7th,
online
we're going to do,
and could be a good thing.
Yeah, May 7th, we're going to do a one-day workshop online, and you can get the information from New Life if you want to join us. I also want to say thank you to our Club New Life family who helps us provide these resources to so many people. And just the other day, I was talking to somebody who's been part of Club New Life forever. I mean, well, since the inception of Club New Life. And just that little bit over these many years has made such a huge impact in the lives of so many people. And if you join, we have a great gift, with the zippered tote bag that I always talk about, which is such a great gift, but it's filled with life recovery resources and just a thank you for how you are going to make a difference in the lives of so many people. Also, if you give in March, we're giving you any gift amount. We're going to give you a copy of Dr. Daniel Amen's Conquer Worry and Anxiety, which is kind of funny. We've been talking about the brain, and, Dr. Amen's all about that and talks about how we can conquer those things that want to take control of our lives. And so just give us a call in any amount. We'll send you that gift. Today, We've been talking to families and folks that are struggling with some isolation, some new chapters in their life. And I'm just encouraged by Philippians 4:6-7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. And I know that can be encouraging and in times when we're struggling, but that whole do not be anxious can be a little bit of a challenge because we feel anxious. So, and I know Jim and Joe, we work with people all the time that struggle with anxiety and don't know what the next step is. And I would encourage you, if this is what your challenge is, to say a prayer, just lift up, Lord, I just need help. It's a struggle. I'm worried about these things. I don't know what I can do differently, and the Lord will be with you. Jim or Jill, do you have any thoughts of encouragement for those that might be listening in that way?
I'm going to go along with what you said when you talked about anxious. I call it thank therapy. I practiced it this morning. I wrote down 20 reasons why I was thankful. It doesn't change every circumstance, but it changes my attitude. I think that's what you said in that beautiful scripture of Philippians 4. If we're anxious, practice some thank therapy.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And I'll see you next time.